thanks everyone for coming. Just if you haven't, I just want to take care of a couple of housekeeping items. If you haven't signed in at the sign-in desk on the sign-in sheet, please do, so we can make sure that we can get back to you and know how many people came. And so, but I appreciate you all coming. The other thing you should know, and I guess that was apparent when you came in, is that the city requested that we videotape this. All community meetings from now on will be videotaped by City TV, and they will be uploaded to the City TV site. So if you have any questions about this, or you want to share the video with somebody else, or want to look at the presentation again, that will happen. It generally takes about a couple of weeks for it to be posted, so that will be there, and I think it's a great advantage to have it here to record this. Everyone, if you haven't gotten an agenda yet, please go ahead and do so. We have pens if you want to take notes. And the other thing is just procedural. I am holding this mic. Obviously, it's not going through a public address system. The microphone is simply so that the City TV camera can pick up the audio, because the room mic that those cameras use isn't very good, and it's not the best way to record people's comments. So what we'll do after the presentation is we'll answer questions or address comments there at that point, and we'll come to you with a mic so that your comments are duly recorded, so nothing is missed. So the other thing is restrooms around the corner. Just want to make sure everybody knows that. And we are handling people's parking, so if you came in a car, just know that you can go to Zachary at the desk and he will make sure you get a validation. So tonight we are going to be looking at a presentation on the proposed mini dealership. As you know, you probably got a notice of this. We'll be looking at a sort of conceptual plan for it, and that's why we're bringing it to you tonight this way. With us tonight are Steve Quinn, who's the dealer principal over there, Pat Quinn, his son, he's a general manager, Gary Whitfield and Rich Garcia from Whitfield Wagner Architects, and they have done most of the architecture work on this. We have as well David Hibbert. You may be familiar with him. He's a local architect, and he's the consulting architect on this. So without further ado, we should get this going. And again, if you could just hold your comments and questions till we get in the Q&A section, we'll get to you. Take it away. Are you the man?
I am. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Well, thank you first off for coming, folks. We appreciate your time tonight. I know your time is valuable. They say that time is the new currency, so thank you for taking the time, because your input is valuable as we go down this rather long road towards the development of Mini of Santa Monica. It's important that we get feedback from those in the community who can give us some guidance on what they'd like to see come out of what we're trying to accomplish, and it's a very valuable opportunity for us to hear what you have to say. And as I was saying to someone over there, over by the oranges, you know, interestingly, if you talk to enough people, very, very good ideas do surface. It's just the way it is. You know, 20 heads are better than one. They always will be. So we appreciate that. I would love to be able to stand up here and say, you know, I was born in Santa Monica, I was raised in Santa Monica, and all my kids grew up in Santa Monica, but I can't, because we're from Toronto, Canada. All my kids grew up there. We have, just as a little bit of background, I'll talk a little bit more about it later. We've got a number of dealerships in and around the Toronto area, but we love Santa Monica. You've got a very, very unique, what I would call a very unique and beautiful city here. It is, it's one of a kind, really, is what it is. And there's a real passion that exists here. We've been back and forth to this city now too many times that I want to think about, flying back and forth. looking for houses, looking for permanent residents. Pat's going to move down here and become part of the community and get very involved in what we're doing. But one thing we've really learned about the city of Santa Monica is that you cherish what you have. Development will be slow. You'll think about it. There'll be a lot of conversations. There'll be a lot of back and forth. There will be agreements in principle on exactly how we're going to operate the business, what we're going to do, and how we're going to do it in the most efficient, effective, and the most Santa Monica-friendly manner that you can. And I appreciate that. There are a lot of jurisdictions out there that simply don't take the time, effort, or energy to garner public input. And I welcome the fact that it happens here in the city of Santa Monica, because it gives us a unique, individualistic look at, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, and sometimes you do need to take a step back and understand that. I'm an urbanite. I live in the core of downtown Toronto. You're going to see a little video later. I literally live. If I was a golfer and I could hit a 9-iron straight, I live close enough to hit a 9-iron through the front window. And I'm a big bicyclist, and I'm a big rollerblader. And when I look around Santa Monica, I have to tell you that I really appreciate how much people here take advantage of alternate forms of transportation. One of the reasons that, and you'll hear me talk about this a little later, but one of the things that attracted us most to Santa Monica was the opportunity to get involved in a city that has a vision for how vehicles, how alternate forms of transportation, whether it be light rail, whether it be bus, whether it be rollerblades, or whether it be bicycles, can work together. And it's quite exciting for us, to tell you the truth. So let me just take a little bit of time and walk through what we have. Let me tell you about our family first. This is probably the proudest part, so this is the easiest part for me. That's my brother Reg on the left-hand side. Reg and I have been partners for too long in a number of different businesses. But now we're 100% dedicated to the BMW and Mini brand. We don't own other dealerships. I have a really kind of a philosophical hard time saying that, if I owned a BMW and a BMW and a Mercedes and a Audi dealership, I have a real tough time saying to someone, I believe that BMW's, you like Mercedes? I believe that, no, you like Audi? I believe that Audi's the best brand. We're not like that. We're dedicated to both premium brands, and we're gonna stay that way. Between us, we have 6 children, all in their 20s. All have been educated in the car business. All have college degrees, and that's my lovely wife in the middle in her yellow outfit. I have 3 boys. My brother has 3 girls. They're all involved in the business. One thing we're very proud of is there is a Quinn in every single one of our dealerships. So if you are a customer of ours and you want to talk to a Quinn, walk in the door, knock on the door, and come on in. And we currently only have 4 dealerships. We're obviously expanding that with 6 kids, but that's kind of where we're coming from. This is can we hold this video for a second? Beautiful. Like I said, we come from Toronto, Canada. Up in Toronto, there is a gentleman by the name of Christopher Hume. Christopher is the architectural critic for the Toronto Star, which is the biggest newspaper, actually the biggest newspaper in Canada and the biggest local daily up in Toronto. Christopher came to our new Mini dealership, which is an urban dealership built in downtown Toronto on a former parking lot. Sound familiar? That went through the planning process. Very similar to this, community meetings, family process. A very concerned ratepayers group in the area. After we had built it, Christopher came in and did this little video for the Star.com. We didn't even know he came in. We had so many visitors coming in to check out the dealership that he was just one more guy, a guy with a cameraman, kind of looking around. And it literally was, I think, 6 weeks after this got posted that somebody from our organization saw it and said, that's pretty cool what he had to say. So I just want to show this to you. It's very quick.
Mention a car dealership and you think of acres of parking with a trailer-like building stuck somewhere in the middle. But that's all changed now. What's happened is that the car dealerships have moved downtown and become very urban. And in the process, they've discovered the power of architecture. The best example was the BMW showroom, which opened at the foot of Broadview about 7 or 8 years ago. But I'm standing in what is now undoubtedly the most beautiful car dealership in our city, the Mini Cooper showroom, just in the shadow of the BMW building over here. A beautiful enough building that I'd actually like to live here. A little wetland to the west here, other buildings and condos to the north. It's an example to me of how something as usually as ugly as a car dealership can be transformed by the power of architecture and made to enhance its community, to use space intelligently, and to become a place that people enjoy seeing, not just that they have to see. For thestar.com, I'm Christopher Hume.
A place that they enjoy to see, not just a place they have to see, and that's what we really want to bring to the city of Santa Monica. We'll talk at length today about what we propose for the city, but rest assured that what the final product will be, and it's a long row to hoe before we get to that point. But what the final product will be something that every stakeholder, every customer, and hopefully every citizen can be proud of. Something that when you drive by it, you look at it and you say, that's really cool. They took a lot of input. They took a lot of thought when they thought about this, and what they ended up building and ended up servicing the customer with was something that we can be proud of. So let me just talk a little bit about the Mini brand for those of you who may not be familiar with it. Mini loves to refer to what they call minimalism, and that is, of course, the carbon footprint that Mini leaves behind. Mini strives every single day to increase its efficiency and decrease its environmental impact. Obviously, as we all know, it's a smaller vehicle, but built in a premium way, and has tremendous fuel consumption. The average U.S. vehicle has about 22.4 mpg. The Mini operates at 37 mpg. Obviously, they strive constantly to reduce CO, reduce that carbon footprint, and continually come up with energy-saving technologies. Mini has plans for a low-sulfur, highly clean, fuel-efficient diesel coming to market in the next few years. The Mini E electric vehicle is not far around the corner, coming to market in the next few years. So there's some exciting things going on with Mini. But Mini is not one of those big SUV, and never will be one of those big SUV kinds of vehicles. It's an urban vehicle that you can feel safe in, whether you're on the freeway or you're on a city street. So let's talk about the market and why we're here tonight, why we were invited to come in and look at Santa Monica as a possible prospect for a Mini dealership. This is a little bit of a map of Santa Monica. The dots represent Mini owners in Santa Monica. I could expand that map out a little bit and talk a little bit about Brentwood and West LA and things, but let's concentrate on Santa Monica. When I walked into the library tonight at the corner, there was a corner of 6th and Santa Monica. There was 3 Minis at the stoplight. It is a grossly underserved urban area right now. If you own a Mini, and I look around the room, hopefully some of you do, but if you own a Mini, you know that you have quite a drive to go and get that vehicle serviced. If you own a Mini, if you're going to buy a new car, a lot of people are going to think, well, I need to buy a car locally because I want to get it serviced locally. I don't want to have to drive 10, 15, 20 miles to get my car serviced. I don't want to have to wait. I don't want the hour-and-a-half commute to get there. And Mini USA identified Santa Monica as a situation where the clientele driving the car was grossly underserved. So the purpose of this was to bring a service and parts and sales facility to the area to be able to meet the demands of the marketplace. let me talk to you a little bit about, you may call it a dealership, we call it a store, but it's the mini store rendering. And I'll walk you through it. This is the current corner of Santa Monica Boulevard, running across here, and 14th Street, running north and south. So currently on this corner, if you are familiar with that corner, there's a Phillips 76 gas station on the corner, on that southeast corner. On the northeast corner, an empty lot. Some of you might buy Christmas trees there or pumpkins there, depending on the time of year. On the other corner, to the right of the screen, is a Chevron dealership, and on the other corner is some retail facility. So what we did was we superimposed the building into an actual shot of that corner, so you can see just how the building would fit into the urban environment. A lot of times you see a rendering of a building and it's kind of a big, it's just a building sitting on a big white screen, and you can't really visualize what it would look like with the finished product. So we tried to bring it to life this way by superimposing it. And you'll see that there are some 3-story buildings just to the left of on Santa Monica Boulevard, literally the same height as this building. This is a 2-story building, 2 stories above ground, and a basement, single floor basement. We also tried to put it into the footprint of that neighborhood. So again, this is Santa Monica Boulevard, and this is 14th, and you can see, and there's that empty lot I talked about. So you can see how it fits into the urban landscape. This is our architect's rendering of what the view would be from Santa Monica Boulevard. And we'll talk a little bit about it as we go into the floor plans, but on Santa Monica, car dealerships are generally broken into 2 entities, the sales side of the business and the service side of the business, if you want to make it nice and simplistic. So the service department would be accessed with ingress and egress off of Santa Monica Boulevard. The sales department would be ingressed and egressed off of 14th Street. Inside the dealership, this is the first floor, so that's the ground floor looking out on Santa Monica Boulevard. You can see high ceilings. I think they're about 30 feet high up here in the main showroom. Those minis that are up top are actually fiberglass. They're not real cars, so they kind of just put up there and stay up there. But the ones obviously down here, this is our main showroom that you can see. You see the colors of Mini, the yellows, the green, the reds, highlights of Mini, obviously. Mini, that funky brand. They say that there are 1 million different extrapolations of a Mini if you were to take the different features of the Minis. And we try to bring that fun, funky, fun, not normal kind of an attitude to the Mini showroom. And this is a floor plan of what we're proposing to build. So again, Santa Monica Boulevard along the bottom, 14th Street running along that axis there. So I talked about the service department. I'll talk a little bit about customers coming to the facility. One of the biggest concerns we have, and hopefully one of the biggest concerns that you would have, would be we don't want to see cars queuing out on the street. Just doesn't make sense. There's nothing more frustrating. You're driving down a busy street, you're riding your bike down a busy street, you're rollerblading down that busy street, and there are vehicles queued to go into whatever it happens to be, whether it's a car dealership, whether it's a food store or a retail store or anything else. It's kind of a frustrating thing. So what we did was we gave up a significant amount of retail sales area space so that we could get vehicles, and we show 8 in the drawings, but really we could get probably 12 in there. Customers are brought into the service departments on a appointment basis. So we don't allow 20 people to show up all at once, simply because of the fact that A, I couldn't handle it. We don't have enough staff to be able to handle it. B, you don't want to sit there and wait an hour to talk to somebody. And C, it just doesn't make sense from a queuing perspective. So everybody comes in on an appointment basis, unless they've got an emergency, of course. And we operate our dealerships with people that we call porters, but the realities of it are they're like a valet. So when the vehicle comes into the service department, the valet walks around the car just like when you rent a car. We look for dings and dents and scratches, and you sign off on the car. You're handed what we call a hang tag that goes on the mirror, and in you go to see your service advisor, and the car immediately is then taken out of that queuing lane. It goes down the queuing lane, and it's going to go into 2 elevators that we have, 2 separate redundant elevators that we have. One goes up to the service department on the 2nd floor. One goes down to the parking garage that we have on the 1st floor. So if the car is in for immediate service, up it goes, and it goes right into the service department. We never, and we run dealerships much, much larger than this dealership. I've never seen more than 6 cars in one of our service drive-throughs in my life. So we've overbuilt it to ensure that just doesn't happen. At the end of the day, and if we look at what we consider peak times, we're going to have people showing up here at 6:30 in the morning, probably till about 10 in the morning, and then it kind of gets reversed in the afternoon, obviously, between 3:30 and 7 o'clock when they're picking up their cars. The flow gets reversed, and the customers exit onto Santa Monica Boulevard. A significant number of customers won't exit onto Santa Monica Boulevard. They'll actually leave their vehicles. Interestingly, the parking things don't show up here, but they'll leave their vehicles, maybe go inside to have a coffee, or they'll go inside to talk about a new vehicle or a pre-owned vehicle. But those are the kinds of things that take away from some of the ingress and egress. One of the features of this particular dealership as well is, and remember, this is the outside of the building. So when you're here, you're actually physically inside the building. You're actually parking inside as well. These are all parking spaces, handicap, as well as regular parking spaces for the cars. Those for people who will come into the sales department. They can bring their car inside. If we're going to take them on a test drive, then we can bring that vehicle up to the front door. They can jump in the car and go for a test drive. A couple other features on here. We're putting a coffee cafe open to the street right at the corner of 14th and Santa Monica. Kind of a unique feature for a car dealership, so you'll be able to come in there. We're going to have an independent operator who will come in and operate that as a standalone functioning cafe, maybe a gelato bar. I don't know. We're hoping all kinds of ideas on that. Am I missing anything, Pat?
I can talk about the alley for a second. Sure. So there's 2 other ingress-egress areas. One is off 14th Street, and that's primarily for sales. Coming off 14th, it would be right here. The existing lot has 4 curb cuts, here, 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 and here. We're eliminating 2 of those to go down to just 2 curb cuts in the interest of pedestrian flow, especially with a cafe now on the corner, which is open to the public, not just dealership patrons. So sales will enter through the 14th Street ingress-egress and park in here, entering the dealership through these doors. But we also have an ingress-egress off the alley, which is of interest because local residents use that alley. Our intention is not to use that for any kind of loading or customer entrance. It's merely an opening for emergencies, as well as a night drop for our parts, which come only once a day at about 3 in the morning, and we don't want to have that done on any of the major streets. Another question you might have regarding this is unloading of cars and the big giant trucks that they come on, because those are just about the most annoying thing to have in your neighborhood, unloading cars. We're not going to be doing unloading and offloading at this facility. Because it's such a small piece of property and we're so landlocked, we will be delivering cars to another site, and they'll be driven one at a time from there to here. There's just not a lot of options for us to unload cars, and the street is not something we want. As soon as you park a transport truck on a street, you're immediately going to start getting phone calls. Customers can't get in. He blocks a light. He blocks our entrance. He blocks service. We've had this experience at all of our other dealerships in urban settings, and it just doesn't work. So we are currently looking for a facility to buy in the neighboring areas, kind of away from residential, where we can unload cars and then hopefully store some of our inventory there as well, because our single basement doesn't have the space for all the cars we will need. To give you an idea of how big of a dealership this is, Mini isn't on the same volumes as Honda or Toyota. We don't sell quite as many cars as they do. So we'll be doing about 800 cars in sales a year out of this facility. And that will allow us to keep at any given time about 200 cars in inventory. In our basement, we have space for 136 vehicles, which will be comprised of employees, loaner vehicles, service cars, and test drive cars, with the difference of that and the total number being inventory. So as you can see, I can't keep 200 cars in there, so finding another lot for us is just going to be a part of doing business. You want to talk about the second floor?
It's interesting. Pat talked a little bit about the use of transport trucks and unloading on the streets. It's the most self-policing policy there probably is. As soon as you park that transport truck there, you know your phone's going to be ringing, and you know that people aren't going to be happy. So it kind of polices itself. We simply don't want that grief and aggravation, so we're going to take that away. This is the second floor of the facility, the upper floor of the facility. This is our service department. It's completely insulated, so if you are a resident and you live anywhere in the area, because it's completely enclosed and insulated, you're not going to hear that droning noise of an air gun or a hoist going up and down, or the banging of hammers. You're just not going to hear that outside of the building. Again, we have the two redundant elevators that operate on two separate systems, come up to the second floor of the building. We have a parts department on that second floor, and then we have, and go back to the first one because we did miss a critical key point, and that is the use of bike lockers here. We've got bike lockers, storage lockers, and open bike areas for consumers, and then we've got it also for staff in the basement floor. And we've also got showers on the second floor, shower facilities and cleanup facilities for the staff if they so desire to bring their bikes to work, which will be me. Second floor, this is the subterranean floor, so one floor down on those same elevators. As you can see, we're going to utilize stacking equipment down there. So inventory would be on the top of the stack. Test drive cars that we need to get to quickly, obviously, would be on the bottom of the stack. So that's kind of the general gist of what we're proposing to build. It's interesting doing business in Santa Monica. They give you a roadmap. You show up at the door, they give you a roadmap, they say this is what you want to do. It's called the Loose. It's probably the most, although it's a very long and arduous document to get through, it really is probably the best way to do it, because you take your Loose document, you sit down with your architects and your planners and your designers, and you say this is what we have to do and this is what we have to meet. It sure goes a long way to simplifying what you can and can't do, and it answers a lot of questions for us. So kudos to those, and there's probably some of you in the room today that worked so hard to put this together. I'm not a Loose expert. I've read it a million times, but I'm certainly not an expert at it. But we've got David Hibbert here tonight. If anybody has any questions of how this relates to the Loose, he'd be more than happy to answer those questions, and we'll get to that in the Q&A. So next steps. This is only step 2 in what is going to be, the next year or more of input. Not everybody could come tonight who might want to have input in it, but there is a lot of opportunity, as you can see, for input into what we're going to design and complete. The City of Santa Monica certainly gives everybody who has a vested interest, whether they be nearby residents, whether they be concerned neighborhood associations, whether they be other stakeholders. Everybody gets a chance to make comment, and this is not something that occurs quickly. There's lots of time to think about it. There's lots of time to make change. There's lots of time to add the comments that you think are appropriate to it. So, again, it's an interesting way to do it. It takes a little bit more time, but in the end, I think the finished product is really what is most important. And the finished product has to be something that everybody's happy with and proud of. So I'll turn it back to Melissa, unless there she is, the lovely and talented. And we'll jump into Q&A.
The way we're going to hope to do this Q&A is if you would raise your hands, and members of our team can address your questions or concerns. And where is Zachary? Zachary, who works with me, will pass the microphone to raised hands so that we get your comments or questions on the record. So I'm getting a signal. So we have a couple of raised.
Egress actually mean? I think I know what you mean, but I want to make sure I'm not misunderstanding.
I never get it right either, so you're okay. So ingress just simply means the way people get in, and egress means the way they exit. And I only can remember it because in and e. Yeah, that's a fair question because I never get it right.
Hi. First of all, it's refreshing to see Canadians come into Santa Monica. We've had a lot of different varieties of people build in Santa Monica or attempt to build. And Toronto's a beautiful city, and we're happy to see Canadians investing in our town.
Thank you.
I'm a 20-year resident, and I live right next door. So my first question is, could you tell me the space? It's hard to tell. It looks like the footprint is complete on that picture. Could you tell me how much clearance there is from your building to the building behind you?
So you're referring to the building south, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So jump in if I'm speaking out of turn, guys, but I believe it is 10 feet. Is that correct? To the property line. 10 feet, so we're inside the property line 10 feet.
10 feet? So is there like trees or gravel, or what's the, I'm sorry?
We haven't met with the city's landscape architects yet, but we obviously there will be treatment back there, and it won't be just a dark alley. Interestingly, there is for your interest, other than fire exits, there'll be no employee entrance and exit back there. I mean, my vision of it is, and we'll see where it goes with landscape. My vision of it is, I would love it to be, put some climbing vines on that wall and let them climb up there. It depends on what the treatment is on the wall too, whether they'll do that.
Watch out for climbing vines in Santa Monica. We have climbing rats. They call them roof rats.
That's things we need to note.
Also, you're aware, obviously, you're going to have to do a lot of environmental cleanup because that's a gas station with environmental problems.
Interesting. So the history of that gas station, I think I know this environmental history like the back of my hand now. That gas station in 2004, if you were a resident back then, I think you were, you probably saw them take out the old tanks and put in new double-walled insulated tanks. So at that point in time, they did a lot of remediation. Interestingly, though, when you go, and we just did a phase 1 and a phase 2 environmental study on that property. So if you actually go to the property, you'll see about 17 holes that we dug in the property and went down. But the thing you can't do, obviously, is you can't see what's under the building, and you can't see what's under the tanks that are in there. So we've put a lot of money away for remediation. We're gonna ensure that property. Well, we're going to ensure that property is sparkling clean because I'm the landowner of the property. We're not just here to lease. We're here to own. So it's imperative to us that land is sparkling clean before we start to build on it, because that's just, we wouldn't want to cut our own throats, if you will, by doing something, that didn't meet all the remediation needs that we want. So we're well aware remediation.
Well, I'm sure your architects are well aware of the environmental laws as far as that goes as well, if they're local
Absolutely.
architects, which I assume they are. I also wanted to ask you, how many cars do you plan to service a year? Because we are having tremendous problems with that service station as far as noise and volume, and not caring at all about the neighbors in any way, shape, or form. You say you are going to service the cars on the second floor, but it will be totally noise-proof. How do you do that?
Well, let's think about the current situation there. The cars currently are serviced on the ground floor. No air conditioning in that building. They open the doors probably 320 days a year, and they service the vehicles like that. And then you have a smog check station there that has a dynamometer in it, runs the cars up on the dynamometer, which is also very loud, obviously. That's just not the way we operate our business. Number one, if you and I wish I could give you a tour of one of our shops. Our shops are immaculately clean. They are air conditioned. The doors stay closed for a whole bunch of reasons, not the least of which is to meet OSHA requirements for safety, for health and safety, for extraction of air out of the building. We've got the latest technologies in air extraction, carbon monoxide extraction. It's going to be a great place to work in, and when you've got a nice closed, tight, closed door environment like that, you're just simply not going to get the noise going out the door. It's not like we're going to have giant windows, backing on
Well,
to...
it's hard to tell from that picture.
Yeah, that's probably not a fair representation. But
Well, I can't see the back,
Yeah,
obviously.
that's true. There wouldn't be much to see on the back, to tell you
Well,
the
I'm
truth.
hoping there won't be windows in the back. That's
No windows on the back, absolutely not.
okay.
And it's concrete. That's true. That's a great point. So,
Okay.
and it's not just a block wall. It's poured. It's concrete. So.
And you're working at night? You have hours at night, you said?
Well, it depends on what you define as night. Generally, the car business, as most of you know, you all probably have had some interaction with car dealerships. Generally, the service departments operate from 7:30. Customers start dropping off their car around 6:45, 7:30. The technicians start to work. Generally, by 7 o'clock, well, generally by 5:30, they're gone. Generally, people tend to pick their car up a little bit later. So we have no indication right now. We're overbuilding the size of the shop so that we don't have to go to night or 2 shifts or anything else like that. The sales department's a different story, obviously. Generally in the sales area, it's open longer hours. People want to shop at night. But there's not a noise concern that there would be, obviously. With
Well,
the
I'm
service
hoping you'll be cognizant of the fact of floodlights and people next door to you who have to sleep, and not leaving floodlights on
And
all
interesting you
night.
say that, because in one of our other many dealerships, we're in a very dense urban area, but it has outdoor parking, and of course, as soon as you have outdoor parking, you have security concerns. As soon as you have security concerns, you have to have security cameras, which means you have to have enough lighting for the cameras to work. There's a whole bunch of things that have to happen. Interestingly enough, here, we don't have that. There's not a single vehicle parked anywhere outside the walls of the building. So at night, everything gets locked up. There's no need for floodlights off the roof. There's no need for any of that in this environment, because it's very unique, because there is no outdoor parking.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, I have a few questions. One would be the 3 a.m. parts drop. How noisy will that be for the adjacent neighbors?
Well, let me explain how a parts drop works. So generally we have they're called carts. They're probably 4 feet by 2 feet wide. We're going to have one vehicle, and when Pat says it's a 3 a.m., probably, in fairness, it's probably closer to 5 a.m., but regardless, it's still, in my opinion, the middle of the night, if you will. So it's not a transport truck. It's a short truck that drops off the parts. They have a back lift gate. These carts come off, probably 2 carts a night would come off. Takes about 15 minutes. They unlock the building, they drop the carts inside, and then they lock the building back up. So it's probably a 15-minute exercise to drop those things off, and I would tend to think that the noise wouldn't be any more noisy than any urban noise at that time of the night.
So there'll be someone there in the evening and during the middle of the night to let them in?
No, the drivers have.
Oh, the drivers will have
Have
keys
a
and
pass card.
go in and out. Okay. And is there any parking or anything up on the roof?
There is not.
So the roof will just be an ordinary roof. You won't be parking cars, or you're not planning on using the roof for the car
Right.
parks.
And again, I don't want to use the wrong terminology, David, but I guess based on the FAR and the loose documentation, we simply can't park on the roof, and so the roof won't be utilized. It'll be a green roof, but not utilized for any kind of parking.
Okay. And I'm not a fan of the dark colors of the building. I'm not sure if you realize you're in Southern California, and during the summer, the heat coming off of a building like that would be very uncomfortable for anyone walking on that sidewalk. I don't know what the material will be, but you'll have to paint it more often because those colors, the dark colors, really fade. And also, I'm not sure where the bus stop is. I know there's a very important bus stop on 14th. We have buses going in both directions on that corner, and I'm not sure if where the bus stops are now, or if the city will be moving the bus stops as they're planning for the loose. So I was just concerned with the coloring of the building. I'm not a fan of that. I like the design and everything, that sort of modern, sporty-looking design. That's not the problem. I'm just concerned with the dark coloring. And I was also concerned with the corner. Is that a cutout there in the corner on 14th and
It's
Santa
a
Monica?
it's a
So, like,
cafe.
it's a cafe, but like if you're sitting in your car and you look coming across 14th North, will you be able to see like through the corner there?
Oh yeah, it's open.
It's an
Yeah.
open space. Yeah, that's
Right.
what
Just
I
one
like.
pillar coming down in the corner. to
Right, because we
support.
have a problem with bicyclists riding down the wrong way on the sidewalk. And so when you have a building that comes directly,
Right.
to the corner, you can't see the bicyclist
Absolutely.
coming and hitting you. But you don't. It will be a type of facility, though, like a restaurant where people would be paying to eat there, or is it just going to be like to serve coffee or whatever to your customers?
Well,
Or
it'll
do
be
you know?
both.
It'll be
You know, I mean, obviously, we'll have to work that out with the purveyor of the because we are going to let it be an independent coffee run facility. Hopefully, sorry, you jump in. Do you know? I'm going to need you to take that.
Cafe Bella at Broadway on 19th.
Yeah, I've been in there once and wouldn't go
Well,
back.
that's that's what's being envisioned at the corner. It's probably 250 square feet. When they first opened, my office is around the corner. I thought, wow, this place is so wonderful. But will they be in business 6 months from now? It's now 4 years later, and they're still in business. I don't understand how it all works, but obviously a lot of people go there. That's what we're envisioning. In fact, when I told them about this, he said, well, got to go talk to that guy, see if he'd like to open another place, because the quality of what they do there is great. It's very small, and it would be perfect for that corner.
Okay. But the coloring, is there any talk about the coloring?
There's a lot of talk. First off, let me address the coloring issue. This is the mini standard color. You'll see that from New York to Miami to LA. Interestingly, though, as recently as yesterday, Mini's re-looking at the surface of the building to try to bring the surface more in line with exactly what you said, less reflective, less heat bouncing off of the building. So there are some interesting technologies that are out there now that weren't available when this was designed 5 years ago, to try to address those exact issues. Because it's not just an issue, obviously, in LA. It's an issue in Miami. It's an issue in Italy and in France and everywhere else in the world. So those things are being addressed. You're right. The building's dark. It's kind of that funky European look to it with the coloring and stuff in it. But when you see the building in real life, it does look spectacular, but the heat concern would concern all of us. And I, as a building owner, is going to spend millions of dollars to build this building. I don't want to have to go back and have to resurface the building in 3 or 4 or 5 years because it fades. So it is a concern, and it is being addressed.
As for they call it the LEEDs standards, I think it's what it's called, like gold, silver, whatever, all the environmental things, solar panels on the roof or anything like that going on?
And we haven't got to that point yet with the city. Certainly we will talk about LEED, and it will be at some level of LEED that will make the city happy. I'm not exactly sure of all the extrapolations of silver, gold, and platinum that would be necessary here, but that is something that we will address.
Hi.
Hi.
I just had a quick question. I was just wondering, does the Mini company make you hire certain employees who already work in the Mini company, or will you be hiring some of your sales associates and mechanics from around here?
I'm glad you brought that up, because if you didn't, he'd give me heck at the end of this conversation, because I was supposed to talk about that. Wherever we go, it's imperative to us that we hire local. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. It's not just the altruistic reasons. Number one, if somebody has to commute 2 hours to work and 2 hours home, how effective are they going to be if they work for you? Number two, if somebody has to commute an hour to work, they're probably going to have to drive. Number three, if you don't hire local, you never get that thing that is so important in the car business. I can go spend millions of dollars advertising. I can go spend millions of dollars on social media. I can go put newspaper ads out all you want. But there is none better advertising than word of mouth. And if you don't hire local people who know the constituents, who know the customers, who sell or talk about the cars to their neighbors, if you don't hire locals, you'll simply not survive. You can't just airlift in people. We will at the beginning airlift in people with knowledge of the Mini and how to fix them, how to sell them. But those people will just be airlifted in at the beginning, and then they're gone, because we have to train local. We have to reach out into the community, because, as you know, think about your own network of people, whether it be social, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it happens to be, your own network of people. Everybody knows 100 people. And those 100 people know another 100 people, and that's 10,000 people. And if you've got a great reputation, as the gentleman in the front row can certainly attest to, if you've got a great reputation, people know about it instantly. And if you've got a bad reputation, they know about it in a nanosecond. And the realities of it are, you have to hire local talent that's going to foster your brand. So it's really a function. And again, I could talk up here all the altruistic things. Oh, yeah, we want to hire local because it's good for this and good for that. But it's simply good for business. It's just the way it is. Well, so absolutely, and that's his job.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you.
I just want to address the architect's coffee shop question. Do you know who owns that building where the coffee shop is? Which is why it's still there? Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan owns that building.
I'm sorry.
He can well afford to subsidize a coffee shop and a Jewish temple.
Well, it's, as I say, it's a condominium, so it's if
No,
somebody
the,
is subsidizing
the
it,
coffee
it's
shop
the HOA.
on Broadway and 19th Street? You're talking about the coffee shop on Broadway?
No,
right?
Cafe Bella.
Oh, you're not talking about the coffee shop
No,
on
no,
Broadway and 19th?
that's-
Okay,
it's-
sorry.
A couple blocks from there.
Sorry. Right. And I guess what I'm curious about is, why do you need a coffee shop there? Because they're opening up a restaurant across the street on the other corner, Truxton's. There's an Italian place 2 doors down. I'm just curious why you're putting a coffee shop in a car dealership.
First off, I think it's kind of a cool idea. It's unbelievably valuable retail space that I could use. I could certainly use it. But I think it brings a certain cachet to the corner. And it's unfair for me to stand up here and say that's a coffee shop. Because to tell you the truth, I want it to be a gelato bar because I love gelato. But the realities of it are that Mini's not normal. And we try to go out and do things that are different. And I talked today, as a matter of fact, interestingly, we were talking with some individuals, and they're talking about what it's going to be. And I said, I don't know what the vision is going to be, but I do know one thing. I want it to be successful. And I sell cars. I'm just a dumb car guy, you know. I sell cars. I don't know anything about running a cafe or selling gelato or anything else.
I doubt if you're a dumb car guy.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer that to somebody rent-free. So you can talk about, you know, you talked about subsidy. I don't want to subsidize anybody, but I want to give it to them rent-free because I want them to be successful. Because if they're successful, then we're successful. And again, it goes with the whole Mini brand. It goes with the whole philosophy of hire local, breed success. People will want to come. Hopefully somebody's in there having a gelato, having a coffee, having an espresso, having whatever they happen to be having, and they happen to wander inside and maybe buy a car. And, you know, the realities of it are that I'm not looking for a Starbucks there. I'm not looking for, you know, a big chain to come in there. And this is a small, tiny area. If you look on the footprint, small, tiny area. We want to do something kind of funky and different in there. Sure, it's for our customers, but you know, we also want it to be for the people walking down the street.
Well, I'd like to suggest then, since unfortunately our neighborhood is also a magnet for the homeless people, especially in the alleyway, something to remember. There might be a lot of charitable organizations that would be happy to go in there and open up a coffee shop.
That's a great idea.
And helping people who can't get jobs if you're willing to give it rent-free. Because, as you know, our economy is not as strong as Canada's at the moment, and there's a lot of unemployed people, and we're happy to hear that you're going to be hiring people who are American and not just bringing in, you know, foreign workers.
We're just bringing in one foreign worker.
Well, we're happy to have one guy from Toronto, but obviously we need the jobs. And if you can do something charitable with that space, I think that would go a long way in this town to make you very popular.
I appreciate that, and you've thrown me another softball because you keep bringing up things that I keep forgetting that I wanted to talk about. We're very involved charitably in our dealerships in the other cities. I like to get involved with the healthcare situation because I think healthcare is just an abomination. And if anything you can do to raise money for healthcare, so I'm a big charitable guy in the healthcare side of things. And again, we're in a very urban area where we are, so we have a hospital not far from one of our dealerships called St. Michael's Hospital, and it is in the middle of the worst part of the city. And if you think you have a homeless problem here, and obviously you do, every city has a homeless problem. That hospital is a very charitable hospital that does a lot of work for the homeless people, and we are big supporters of it. We've let them use our facilities for a number of different charitable events. We've done, you know, I mean, I could go on and on. We've done a myriad of different things to help that cause, and I think that's a great idea. And if there was a charitable foundation out there that wanted to come in there and run it properly and run it as a business and run it effectively and efficiently, I'd be more than happy to talk to them. Yeah. We got time.
Hi, I'm Megan Kavanaugh. I also live just south of your proposed building, just about a half a block down. And I'm sure you've noticed by walking around in the neighborhood, there's already 4 Minis just on our block. 3 of them are just in our apartment complex, so I'm sure they're all going to be very happy to see you guys when you are all built. The coffee shop, first of all, is my favorite part about the project. I think that's a great idea. And it's a very pedestrian-heavy neighborhood, so I think that was very smart of you guys to put that in as an idea. The biggest concern that I have really is this parts drop, and I know it's supposed to only take 15 minutes, but our alley in particular has a lot of concrete walls that are very high on either side, and the sound just echoes and amplifies through there. We have one neighbor who has loud parties back there every once in a while, and it is a nightmare. You can hear it. We live right on the street, and it bounces all the way out there. And I'm just concerned that the truck comes in and the diesel engine is idling for 15 minutes, and then you hear the of the gate going down, and then they're rolling it in, and then they're talking, and I'm just concerned about sleep. I'm a nursing student, and there's another nurse in our apartment building, and sleep is very important, and that alley is just so loud. But you guys have such a great idea with this driveway where the vehicles to be serviced comes in. I'm wondering why the truck couldn't just pull into there where the sound is buffered in the night to make the parts drop off so that you wouldn't have that sound problem.
I'm getting the nod from the architect. That's completely doable.
Because that would eliminate a lot of the sound concerns, and I'm so glad to hear you're not dropping off the truck with the cars coming off of it there. And that would just be so helpful to be able to have that inside the building for the noise there in the alley.
Well, we certainly hear you, and like I say, he's given me the nod, so obviously the trucks will fit, so that's a good thing.
Hi, I'm Gary Kavanaugh. One comment I also wanted to make, living really close and walking around a lot, is I forget, is the exiting of vehicles going to happen at both curb cuts or only at
both?
At both. And so my biggest concern with any buildings that have indoor parking is making sure that sightline visibility is good for people walking back and forth, and also for the people exiting, and also making sure that it's slow, safe, and that interaction is something where everybody can make clear eyesight. That would be my biggest concern.
There's some interesting technologies for that kind of thing. Obviously, you can, as simplistic as red lights and green lights, that have an eye sensor. If a car is coming up to kind of an obstruction, the people on the sidewalk can see that. That's one thing. Yeah.
The city also has thought of that, and they make you create a spacing triangle off any ingress-egress area. I don't know the exact dimensions. The architects would know, but they're substantial enough that anyone walking or driving out would be able to see what's coming, so you're not nosing into pedestrians, and so that pedestrians aren't walking just right in front of cars. So we've added those required, I think it's 5 by 5 right-angled triangles off of all 4 corners of the 2 entrances. So safety will be first priority when it comes to exiting and entering.
Yeah, and I was thinking especially because we have quite a few people who skateboard down the street on 14th, and they'll be going by
too,
that driveway entrance, and just making sure that visibility is good.
Yeah, and the one good thing about this facility is our porter valet system. They're all situated on that first floor, so there's a lot of help exiting onto Santa Monica as well as 14th from those individuals. That's their full-time job, is managing the flow of cars through there, because it's such a tight building that they'll be able to help with that as well. Thanks.
I'm loving all the questions. This is great.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I live about a block north of there, and I'm a 10-year Santa Monica resident, and I'm here just more out of curiosity than anything else. I have a big dog, and I walk around this neighborhood all the time, and I hate this corner. I hate everything about this corner right now, and it's kind of an eyesore, and the bar is really loud across the street, and so also confess a Mini owner. So I'm here out of curiosity, and I actually love this idea, and I'm welcome you to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
I just want a question. Did the city talk to you about community benefits, and are you going to be required to do anything with community benefits? And then would you be considering that coffee shop or whatever rent-free as a community benefit?
I'm open to all kinds of suggestions for community benefits. I mean, we've had some preliminary discussions on it. David, why don't you?
This is a Tier 1 project, so we don't have that requirement. You know, what they do is at their discretion, basically.
Oh, okay, because if it's over a certain amount of square footage, you're not going to go through a
That-
DA?
This is, well, this is starting out as a development agreement, but the zoning ordinance is going to be in place by the end of the year, and we're going to switch, at least this is my understanding, to a development review permit, and we will be treated as a Tier 1 project. So, I mean, if it works out differently, maybe, you know, there will be some discussion about that, but that's our understanding right now.
Okay, thank you. Because the other dealership last week had a different view of
It's
that.
much
so-
bigger.
Oh, it's much bigger. Okay, that was a question. And then, to me, the best community benefit that you have is getting rid of those hauling trucks and that drop off the cars. And when you say that you don't like the phone calls, when we brought that up to the last auto dealership last week, they just laughed in our face and said, "So what?" There is a city ordinance that you're not allowed to do it, but you may get a lot of, I guess it's called blowback, because some of your fellow auto dealerships are not as genteel and gentlemanly and well-spoken and socially progressive as you are.
Well, I can't speak for anyone else. I can only speak for myself. I know we're here to build a business, and I know how you build a business. And the realities of it are, the day I open the doors, you know how many customers I have? None. I have 0. So I have to build my customer base one customer at a time. And the realities of it are, you get a lot more bees with honey than you do the other way around.
Hi. Also, welcome. It's really hard to be upset with Canadians. You're all so polite. I live just north of this and a street over, so our neighborhood obviously is the dumping ground for car dealerships, and they're not easy neighbors to have. The biggest problem is the trucks, which I'm glad that you're addressing. I agree. I didn't know there was a city ordinance about unloading and loading cars. I don't think that there is, because they certainly don't enforce it. When they had, a few years ago, the city actually, at the behest of the car dealers, changed the city constitution to make them, to allow them to make them bigger and use, lots that were zoned for residential and that sort of stuff. But they had a lot of meetings like this, and we kept bringing it up, and they kept saying, well, it's impossible. There's nothing you can do about it. And we had actually on our block, which is the first block this side, a sign that said, no vehicles over 3 tons or something like that. And we went to the city council and complained, and it was the fastest reaction we ever got, because 2 days later they came and took the sign down. And the trucks, are still there. There was one there at 8 o'clock last night, and 2 there this morning, and one there today when I was, coming here for this meeting. So that's a big improvement. I guess it's sort of pushing it off on somebody else. It's making it somebody else's problem, but you guys will definitely have that in place before you build this, though, right? Because
Absolutely.
It's
Well,
part
we
of the.
have-
It's part of.
On day one, those vehicles are coming, so we have
Right.
to be ready.
Well, I just want to make sure, because development agreements, and I didn't realize that you're only doing this as a development agreement because the city hasn't quite yet gotten some other zoning in place to allow this building. Is that basically what you're saying, or is that right?
Would be Tier 3 and Tier 2 projects, and so
Well, I don't
Tier
understand.
3 in particular is, required by the LUS to have community benefits. Tier 2 has always been a little more nebulous, but there actually are discussions, I think, next week about what Tier 2 base community benefit requirements are going to be. So it's going to be more or less defined for Tier 2, discretionary for Tier 3, and Tier 1 just won't fall into that.
So why do you need a development agreement then? Is because it's right now it doesn't. It's bigger
Because
than the
of
zoning
the,
ordinance?
everything right now is under the interim ordinance, and anything over 7,500 square feet falls into that. That's why there's so many development agreements right now. Frankly,
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons.
I think if we had understood how long this was going to be, I think we would have tried to talk about this a lot more originally, because it's
Yeah.
creating a gridlock in the city, and
Well, it's a free-for-all architecturally too, I think. But I had some other questions. One of the things, if you can sidestep the problem of the cars loading and unloading, that's great. And also, as far as that opening onto the alley, that's not my alley, but we do have an alley that the car dealers use as part of their driveway. They go out of the out of the back in the alley and all the way up to Arizona, which is the next street this direction, to come over and back to Euclid and go back down and go back in the other way. And you guys, I guess, won't have that problem, but you probably should have a sign there. So anybody that ever does go out that alley can only turn left and head for Santa Monica and not head the other direction for, the dealers are. I don't know how it would work if it was only an emergency exit. You would actually keep the customers who are picking up or dropping off their car from using it?
Well, and their cars won't even be facing that direction. So if you got in your car, you're not going to back up and go.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Well,
all right, well, that's good.
That's a good point.
But by extension, obviously, it's like you say, it's two businesses, new cars and used cars. We also have a lot of extra traffic. I mean, you guys are in the car business, so there's no way it's not going to be extra traffic. But for both test drives, people coming to try the cars out, and for road tests, the mechanics taking the cars that they work on out for drives. That happens up and down our street all the time, and some of the road tests are pretty spectacular. I don't know whether they're testing acceleration or brakes or what it is, but it also just adds to the traffic on our street. So we brought that up at the meeting when the city changed the Constitution, for the car dealers. It never got addressed like most of the things we brought up, but it would be good if you guys could come up with a route that you would take for that would keep you on the main arterial streets and not on the residential streets when you're doing test drives with all your customers and road tests on all your repair vehicles.
And this is the exact same problem you have in every single urban environment. I tell my guys all the time, you just simply can't go up and down residential streets. First off, even from a business perspective, huge insurance risk with doing that. Kids are playing on the street, balls go out in the street. If you ever hit a kid, God forbid, your life is ruined. You can't do that. So stay on the main street, stay on the four lane streets if you have to. And we're working with the city on a test drive route.
Yeah, the city actually has, that's part of the process that we're going through. They have to approve the route.
For new ones, obviously, not for the old ones. Yeah, right. All right. Well, that's good. And you were talking about the math of parking, and or your son was, in terms of what you use those spaces for. Are any of those spaces for the coffee shop or whatever, gelato shop, whatever it turns out to be?
Well, conceivably, sure. I guess we're not going to turn somebody away and say, well, if you're going to the gelato shop, you can't come and park here. So.
All right. Yeah. I think most places would say that, exactly, but that's good news. I don't find it actually to be a tremendously pedestrian-heavy place. Maybe it is for L.A., in a relative sense, but it's not like, I don't think it's going to be like downtown Toronto in terms of people walking by saying, oh, a new gelato shop, I'll stop in. Everybody here drives from somewhere else to get where they're going. Yeah. I would also... I'd be concerned about, I don't know where the curb cut was. If you could put that slide back up, maybe you can tell from, but you've probably done measurements. But cars going this direction that you're seeing from this perspective that are turning left into the new car part of the dealership after they cross Santa Monica, there's already a turn lane there, obviously for people who are traveling north and turning left and going west on Santa Monica. And I don't know how, in terms of that curb cut, in order for these people going into your new car dealership to not be impeding traffic that's continuing south down 14th Street, they would have to be in that sort of middle turn lane. And I'm wondering if you have to shorten the left turn lane for northbound 14th Street in order to give, some left turn lane waiting space for the people turning into your dealership.
Yeah,
do you know that?
I'm a little confused.
Okay.
Are you talking about off 14th?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So people coming, southbound. The people coming southbound.
Right. They're going south.
Right. And they want to turn left into your new car dealership. Right.
Okay.
Or have to cross paths with the people who are coming north
right.
and are taking a left and going west on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Right.
So there's the middle lane there is the left turn lane.
Right. Which is, remember, this curb cut exists today.
Yeah, right.
Into the gas station.
Well, that's true, but in fairness, you can get into the gas station from any, you can get to the place where you get to from there from any of the other entrances, which isn't true here. You can only go in and out. You know what I mean? If you're going to new car parking, yeah.
Yeah, I get your point. I mean,
right.
It's kind of a twixt and tween problem because the realities of it are we want to eliminate as many curb cuts as we can, get the pedestrian flow going, try to direct the traffic in one direction. That's what the city's trying to accomplish. In the other case, like you said, you got four. Right now, you got four ways in, 4 different
right.
methodologies to get in.
But have you talked to the city about will the left turn for the northbound
Yeah,
14th Street be shortened?
we're not
We
that
don't know
far
yet?
down the road yet.
All right, and also the next step from that would be at some point, large businesses like this happens with, Whole Foods or something would like to have a keep clear section so that when the traffic is backed up, which it always is, northbound 14th Street, that's blocking people who are coming southbound and want to turn into your place. So they're always asking for, leave 2 or 3 car lengths, and paint keep clear on the ground. And I'm curious whether you guys are going to need one of those. And
Yeah, that's all stuff that's going to have to be addressed. There's
right.
no
Well,
doubt.
okay. So long as it gets addressed, I
Yeah.
guess that would be great. Well, anyway, I appreciate that you guys at least have these meetings. I certainly hope that you'll take in the input from the people who live there. I don't really understand the 3 a.m. drop-off either, but I like the fact that you're willing to, not use the alley for it. I feel sorry for those people because it is true that car dealerships are open early and, open late, and they get a lot of, besides just the car carriers, I understand the car dealership business that well, but we have those sort of things, parking on the street and backing in and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, interesting. This, Mini is a much what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, it's not a high volume. It's not a high volume dealership. I don't want you to be confused, but Mini doesn't sell as many cars as a Honda or a Toyota or some of the large brands. So the number of customers coming here, when you really do the math, when you think about it, let's say we're going to sell 800 cars a year and we're going to be open 300 days a year. We're really moving 2.5 cars a day out of that place, which probably means that we're going to have 10 on a given week, given day. We'd probably have 10 customers show up to look at a new car. Service department, we're probably going to service somewhere in the vicinity of 50 cars a day. So there's another 50 cars onto the lot every day. Some of the dealerships that are high volume dealerships do well over 100 cars a day. So, and when you think about it, when you're open, let's say 60 cars coming on and leave the lot a day. That's 120 left turns, right turns, whatever kind of turns they are. But that's in a 12-hour day. That's 10 an hour, So when you do the math, and you'd be surprised, but when you do the math, a Mini dealership is really not a high volume, high intensity, and when you compare it to what's there now, it's going to be interesting when they do the traffic studies, because what's there now, a gas station would probably have, I have no idea, but 40, 50 cars an hour probably come across.
I appreciate that. It is, of course, relative. You want to be a high volume, as high volume as you can be, and that's reasonable. That's business, you know what I mean? But that map was very impressive that you showed, where I don't know how you did that. It's sort of like Google Analytics to show all the people who own Minis in Santa Monica. If they
Thank the DMV for that.
Well, great, man. Well, I'm glad all that time in line and all that money is going to something. But it would be great if that was open space. It would be a remarkable achievement. But that seems like a lot of Minis. I mean, that's pretty good. Like you said, it's an underserviced area.
It's amazing. There's a lot of Minis in this town. A lot.
Yeah, and you also have to remember, and you have been clearly very cognizant of the fact that this is a neighborhood, but it's a cumulative thing for us. We don't just have Mini. If you were going to be the only car dealership, I think everybody would do cartwheels. But
I'd be happy to be the only car dealership.
All
by the
right.
way.
Well, if we can get that into the development agreement, fantastic. But they just put a sign up today. I didn't get a chance to read it. This thing that you're showing is an empty lot. Both the aerial view and in this picture is going to be something gigantic now too. They just put up a sign.
I just
there
drove
today
by there
saying,
an hour ago,
saying they're beginning the process of building something monstrous there. I'm sure. So all this stuff is all adds up for those of us who live in the neighborhood. So I appreciate that you're at least thinking about it.
Well, we're going to try to do the best we can. That's for sure. Sure.
One quick correction, Dave. This is actually a Tier 2 project. I think in most areas this would be a Tier 1 because the difference in this zone is so small between Tier 1 and Tier 2. But this is a Tier 2, and there will be a community benefits requirement, and it will be negotiated through the DA. But David is correct. It at some point may turn into a development review permit process. But I just wanted to be clear, it's Tier 2.
Do you know, are you with the city?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Paula Larmer. We're with the applicant's land use council.
What is that?
Land use attorney for the applicant.
right.
Okay, you're Glenn. Is there anyone here from the city? City planning?
There is people here from the city, but since it's an applicant-run community meeting.
We're just here to observe.
Oh, yeah. No, I just had a question about where is the auto dealership interim ordinance Right now? Oh, I'm sorry, I just had a question. I don't know if you can answer it. Last summer, in August, the auto dealership zoning was gutted in the middle of August, and they told us at that city council meeting that they were going to be reviewing it as part of the zoning, and I haven't seen any workshops or any anything in front of the city planning commission regarding the auto dealerships and how they're going to restructure that interim ordinance that they have coming into the new zoning ordinance. So you're not with the city either.
I'm not with the city either. I'm happy to answer.
Okay.
That will be part of the zoning ordinance update that's ongoing. I want to also insulate the city people a little bit. This is an applicant meeting. They're kind enough to come and observe. Anybody can approach the city and City Hall, but I'd prefer not to put city staff in a position where they need to be part of tonight's dialogue, and appreciate the question. And it will be part of the zoning ordinance update, which is, I think a draft is expected to be released sometime fallish.
But that's the whole zoning
That's
thing.
the whole zoning
When are the
including
specific-
auto dealers.
Yeah, but when is the specific community development, the community meetings regarding that, when are they going to be held? Do
Oh,
you
and
know?
I don't know that schedule.
Yeah.
The city has a website. I'm sure you're.
We've been there. The city
aware
has
of
not
them.
scheduled anything for
Okay,
the auto
yeah, they
dealerships,
probably
which
haven't.
they promised us they would do.
And city staff's here. They'll
So I
listen
hope
to
city
that.
staff will take that back to David Martin, that question is being asked.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. I was wondering, you were talking about hiring local. Do you have any idea how much staff you're going to have?
We're going to probably have about 50 staff. That's
And how many of those are going to be valets? Because trying to hire somebody to move and park cars and hire them locally so that they're able to pay a rent in an area like West LA or Santa Monica can
happen. So the realities of it are you have to, doesn't matter what jurisdiction you're in, and Santa Monica is an expensive place to live. On a square foot basis, it's very expensive, but I tell you, it's no different than it is in downtown Toronto. It's equally as expensive. Condos, 800 square foot condos that sell for $369,000, and so we're well aware of that. We don't pay, these are not minimum wage jobs. We pay a decent wage. We have three components to our compensation: a decent wage, a great benefit program, and profit sharing, so that everybody's invested in what they've got and they're building something for the future. So that's kind of how we do it. But we're well aware of the fact that you're not going to get local talent and buy them off at minimum wage and try to run a dealership. And you have to understand too that in life you get what you pay for, if you will. If we want to run a premium service and a premium dealership, we have to hire premium people. That's our plan.
Okay. I've actually run a few businesses in Santa Monica, cafes, stores, things like that. And the idea that you're doing a rent-free corner, you might have a lot of people coming at you for that. But it's a very interesting idea, and it's something that could allow you to contribute something to the community. Somebody was talking about using one of the charitable services around to hires people and gives jobs to people who have trouble getting jobs. It's a very good idea. Interesting that you're putting a cafe in. Was that your idea? Or did that come from Minnie? That was your idea? Okay. One of the questions I had was, how much flexibility does the Mini Corporation have? You were saying that the color is something that they use everywhere. And here in Santa Monica, we're pretty picky about what's done. We have meetings like this. You're going to have people coming and talking to you about all kinds of things. Obviously, you're open-minded and flexible. How much flexibility can you expect, or we expect, from Mini?
I think everywhere you go in every jurisdiction, there's always a deal to be made in the middle of the table. You have to be flexible on both sides. The realities of it are there are certain mandatory requirements that Mini has. It has to be so many square feet. It has to do this. It has to service so many customers. We have to have so many service bays. Color is a big deal for them. I'll tell you right now. Color is a big deal. It's an image. It's a worldwide image. If you go to a Mini dealership in France, it's not going to look any different than it's going to look in in Santa Monica. It is a priority, but there's compromises too, and Minnie's already compromised on a number of things that we've had to do in order to meet the loose documents. So that's why it's a process. I mean, it's a year-long process, working with the city, working with the architects, working with the community to come to something that will make sense for everybody. It's a long road, but we'll get there. Well, thank you very much. There's been great input tonight, valuable input for us. We've taken copious amounts of notes in the back there, and we'll go back and review this thing and hopefully continue down the road to success.